The fluorescent lights of the boardroom blur as Joan sways, her hand slipping from the mahogany table as she collapses. Jason, who had been ruthlessly critiquing a report just seconds ago, vaults over his desk, catching her inches from the floor. As he cradles her, he noticed the light bruise on her cheek, masked with makeup. Her silk blouse shifts, exposing ugly, dark finger marks on her collarbone. The undeniable signature of violence. Jason freezes. The ruthless CEO vanishes, replaced instantly by a man possessed by primal rage. His hazel eyes turn steel cold as he traces the bruise. "Who?" he growls, his voice vibrating with dangerous promise. "Who dared to touch you?" Joan whispers a weak lie, terrified of Andre's threats, but Jason sees through it. He realizes he let her go years ago, only for her to fall into the hands of a monster. Now, he won't just fire someone. He's going to destroy them. They called him a cold-hearted tycoon, but they never saw him when the woman he never stopped loving was hurt. He let her leave once. He won't let her fall again. Before we witness this journey of pain and redemption, let us take a moment to pray for anyone watching who feels invisible today. Dear God, I pray for the person listening to my voice right now. Lord, you see the bruises they hide under long sleeves and the tears they cry when no one is watching. Please, wrap your arms around them. Remind them that they are not broken, just wounded, and that their story is not over. Send them a protector, a healer, and a breakthrough that will silence their enemies. If you receive this prayer, type "Stay Strong" in the comments and watch this story until the very end. Because your miracle might be hiding in the message Jason didn't ask. He didn't offer. He simply moved with the terrifying efficiency that had built an empire. Before Joan could fully regain her bearings, she was in the back of his armored Maybach, the tinted windows sealing them away from the curious eyes of the office lobby. The silence in the car was thick, suffocating, broken only by the hum of the engine and the rapid thud of her own heart. She clutched her purse to her chest, trying to pull the collar of her blouse higher. But she knew it was too late. He had seen. "You can't do this, Jason," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I have to go home. Andre is expecting me." Jason didn't look at her. He stared straight ahead, his jaw set in a line of granite. "You aren't going home, Joan. Not to him." "You don't understand," she pleaded, panic rising in her throat. "It's a liability issue? Fine, I'll sign a waiver. Just let me out." "It is a liability," Jason said, his voice deceptively calm, like the eye of a hurricane. He finally turned to her, and the intensity in his hazel eyes pinned her to the leather seat. But not for the company. For him. He reached into the pocket of his suit jacket and pulled out his phone, tapping the screen before holding it up. It was a photo of her from a company gala 3 months ago. Zoomed in on her wrist. Faint, yellowing bruises she had covered with concealer. Joan stopped breathing. "I suspected then," Jason said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl. "But today, the marks on your neck aren't from a fall. They aren't from being clumsy. They are fingerprints, Joan. His fingerprints." "It's complicated," she choked out, looking away, shame burning her cheeks. "You don't know what he's like when he's angry. If I don't go back, if you go back, he will kill you." Jason cut in, the brutal truth hanging in the air between them. "I let you walk away from me 5 years ago because you said you needed space. I respected that. I stayed away." He leaned closer, invading her personal space, his scent of cedar and expensive scotch wrapping around her. But I will not respect a man who puts his hands on you." "Jason, please," she whispered, tears finally spilling over. He'll ruin everything. He'll come after you. Jason let out a short, humorless laugh. It was a terrifying sound. Let him try. He signaled the driver, and the car accelerated smoothly toward the private exit ramp that led to his estate. You're still my employee, Joan, and under the critical health and safety clause of your contract, I am mandating an immediate, indefinite medical leave. Under my supervision. You're kidnapping me, she said weakly, though the fight was draining out of her. I'm saving you, he corrected, his hand briefly covering hers. His touch was warm, firm, and undeniably possessive. I'm not asking, Joan. You're coming with me. Joan woke the next morning to the smell of rain and lavender, a scent she hadn't encountered since the day she signed the divorce papers. For a moment, she was disoriented, reaching for the bedside lamp in her cramped apartment, only for her hand to brush against 800 thread-count Egyptian cotton. Her eyes snapped open. She wasn't in the apartment she shared with Andre. She was in the guest suite of the McFarland estate, the very room she and Jason had argued about painting blue 6 years ago. It was exactly as she remembered it. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, the plush velvet armchair in the corner, the silence so absolute it felt heavy. She sat up, wincing as a sharp pain shot through her bruised ribs, a cruel reminder of why she was here. The door clicked open softly, and Claire Hargrove, Jason's formidable executive assistant, stepped in. She carried a garment bag and a look of tightly controlled disapproval. Mr. McFarland requested I bring you these, Claire said, hanging the bag on the wardrobe hook. Her tone was polite, professional, and entirely devoid of warmth. Your size hasn't changed. Joan pulled the robe tighter around herself, feeling exposed, her hand instinctively clutching the platinum diamond pendant she still wore around her neck. Thank you, Claire. I didn't ask for this. I am aware, Claire replied, her eyes flicking briefly to the purple mark on Joan's collarbone before quickly looking away. However, the board is also aware. Rumors travel fast, Ms. Witzel. Taking an employee to a private residence without HR clearance? They are calling it a liability. Some are using the word abduction. I need to leave, Joan said, panic flaring again. If Andre finds out I'm here, if he finds out, he will have to get through a security team that rivals the Secret Service. A deep voice rumbled from the doorway. Jason stood there, leaning against the frame, minus his suit jacket, his sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with tension. He looked tired, but the intensity in his gaze hadn't dimmed. Claire turned to him, her posture straightening. Sir, the chairman has called 3 times. He's concerned about the optics. Tell the chairman, Jason said, his eyes never leaving Joan's face, that if he mentions optics to me while my ex-wife, is bleeding, I will buy his majority share and fire him before lunch. Claire paused, a flicker of something like respect crossing her face. I will paraphrase, sir. She nodded once to Joan and exited, closing the door with a soft click. The silence returned, thicker this time. Jason walked into the room, stopping at the foot of the bed. He looked out of place in this domestic setting, a titan of industry standing in a room full of ghosts. Are you safe? He asked, the question simple but loaded with 1,000 unsaid things. I don't know, Joan admitted, pulling her knees to her chest. Being here, it feels like a dream, or a trap. It's a fortress, Joan, Jason said quietly. And as long as you're inside it, nothing touches you. Not the board, not the past. His jaw tightened. And certainly not him. While Joan slept, wrapped in the safety of the guest wing, Jason sat in his private study, a room usually reserved for billion-dollar mergers and hostile takeovers. Tonight, the hostility was entirely personal. The mahogany desk was devoid of company reports. Instead, it was covered in photographs, bank statements, and a dossier thick enough to ruin a dozen men. Ethan Marshall, Jason's oldest friend, and the only man he trusted with the bodies buried in his past, stood by the window, swirling a glass of amber liquid. "It's done," Ethan said, his voice low. "I made the call to the regional director at 9:00 a.m. Andre was escorted out of the building by security at 9:15. Cause for termination listed as gross misconduct and misappropriation of funds. He'll never work in finance again. Not in this city, not in this country." Jason didn't look up from the screen of his desktop monitor. He was watching a live feed of Andre's bank account. And the assets? "Frozen," Ethan confirmed. "The bank flagged his accounts for suspicious activity. His credit cards will decline the next time he tries to buy a pack of gum. We also leaked the gambling debts to his landlord. Eviction notice should be on his door within the hour. It was a systematic dismantling of a human life, executed with the cold precision of a surgeon removing a tumor." Jason felt no guilt, only a grim satisfaction that burned in his gut like acid. For years he had buried himself in work to forget the woman he loved. Now he was using that very empire to destroy the man who had hurt her. "It's not enough," Jason murmured, swiping to the next file. It was a police report from 2 years ago, a domestic disturbance in a neighboring county that had been swept under the rug. "He has a history. We need to make sure he has no future." Ethan turned from the window, his expression serious. "Be careful, Jace. You're crossing lines here. You're not just ruining him, you're hunting him. If the board finds out you're using company resources for a personal vendetta..." "Let them find out," Jason cut him off, finally looking up. His eyes were dark, devoid of the usual professional mask he wore so well. "He put his hands on her, Ethan. He made her afraid to breathe in her own home. I'm not just going to take his job or his money. I'm going to take his pride. I'm going to take his stability. I want him to know what it feels like to be powerless." He looked back at the screen, where a notification popped up confirming the cancellation of Andre's car insurance. Jason's finger hovered over the execute button for the next phase of the plan. "He broke her," Jason whispered, the words trembling with suppressed rage. "So, I'm going to break him, piece by piece." The silence of the estate was shattered by the slam of the study door. Joan stood in the entrance, clutching a tablet she had found in the living room, one that was still logged into Jason's private server. Her face was pale, but her eyes were blazing with a fire Jason hadn't seen in years. "Is this true?" she demanded, holding up the screen which displayed a foreclosure notice with Andre's name on it. "You got him fired? You froze his accounts. You're evicting him?" Jason didn't rise from his chair. He simply removed his reading glasses and placed them on the desk. He needed to be handled. Handled. Joan stepped further into the room, her voice rising. "He's a human being, Jason. You can't just destroy people because you have the money to do it. This isn't a merger. This is someone's life. It's the life of a man who beat you." Jason shot back, his calm facade finally cracking. He stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. "Do you think I care about his job? Do you think I care about his apartment? I care that you walked into my office with bruises on your neck. I care that you flinch every time I move too fast. That doesn't give you the right to play God, she cried. This is why I left, Jason. You always think you can control everything. You think you can fix every problem by throwing money or power at it. But you couldn't fix us. I didn't try to fix us because you walked out. Jason roared, the words tearing out of him like a wound reopening. He rounded the desk, closing the distance between them. I buried myself in this company because it was the only thing that didn't remind me of you. I worked until I couldn't think, until I couldn't feel, because the silence in this house without you was deafening. Joan faltered, the fight draining out of her as the truth hit her. I was lonely, Jason. You were never here. And then Andre was there, and he listened, and I thought, you thought he was better than me. Jason finished bitterly. You married him to prove you didn't need me. And look where it got you. That's not fair, she whispered, tears spilling over. I made a mistake, I know that. But I don't need you to save me out of guilt. It's not guilt. Jason grabbed her shoulders, his grip desperate, searing. It's never been guilt. It's love, Joan. It's always been love. Even when I hated you for leaving, I loved you. The air between them crackled, charged with 5 years of unspoken pain and buried desire. Joan looked up at him, seeing not the CEO, but the man she had once promised forever to. The anger in his eyes was gone, replaced by a raw, terrifying hunger. Before she could think, before she could retreat, she leaned in. His mouth crashed onto hers, not gentle, not tentative, but desperate. A kiss that tasted of salt and whiskey and lost time. For a moment, there was no past, no Andre, no pain. Only the overwhelming, undeniable truth that they were still, inevitably, theirs. The kiss had ended abruptly, both of them pulling away as if burned, retreating to separate corners of the house to process the electric shock of their reconnection. Joan sat in the garden conservatory, staring blankly at an orchid, her lips still tingling. The peace was shattered by a vibration in her pocket. It wasn't her main phone, isn't anything, taken that for security reasons. It was an old emergency burner she kept in her purse, one she thought no one knew about. The screen lit up with a number she knew by heart. Andre. Her thumb hovered over the decline button, trembling. But the conditioning ran deep, the habit of answering him ingrained in her muscle memory. She swiped right. Joan? His voice was a wreck, hoarse, broken, sobbing. Oh God, Joan, please tell me you're okay. I've been going out of my mind. Andre, I can't talk to you, she whispered, looking over her shoulder towards the house, guilt flooding her chest. I know I messed up, he cried, the sound pathetic and small. I'm sorry, baby. I was stressed, I was drunk. I never meant to hurt you. You know that, right? You know how much I love you. You hit me, she said, her voice shaking. You left bruises. And I hate myself for it, he wailed. But Joan, look what he's doing to me. I lost my job today. My cards are declined. My landlord just posted an eviction notice. I'm on the street, Joan. I have nothing. Is this what you wanted? Did you want to destroy me? I didn't, Joan stammered, the familiar weight of responsibility crushing her. Jason did this. I didn't ask him to. But it's because of you, Andre accused, his tone shifting subtly from sorrow to manipulation. He's doing this to punish me for loving you. He wants you back, doesn't he? That arrogant billionaire prick thinks he can just buy you back and ruin my life in the process. And you're letting him. I'm not letting him do anything, she defended weakly. Then help me, Andre begged, his voice dropping to a desperate whisper. Please, Joan. I have nowhere to go. I haven't eaten. Just meet me. Let me explain. Let me apologize to your face. We can fix this. I can change. But I can't do it if I'm dead on the street because your ex-husband decided to play executioner. Joan closed her eyes, fighting the war inside her head. The logic that told her he was dangerous versus the heart that had spent 2 years trying to save him. The silence from the main house felt oppressive now, Jason's protection feeling suddenly like a cage. Andre sounded so broken, so small. And hadn't she promised, in her vows, for better or worse? Where? She whispered, the single word sealing her fate. The old coffee shop on 5th, he said quickly, relief flooding his voice. Tonight. Please, baby. Just don't tell him. If he knows, he'll kill me. Do this for us. The coffee shop on 5th was a relic of a simpler time, its neon sign flickering in the twilight. Joan pulled her trench coat tighter, shivering not from the cold, but from the terrifying realization of what she had done. She had slipped past the gate security by punching in the old keypad code, a sequence she'd memorized years ago when sneaking out to surprise Jason. Now, she was using it to betray him. She scanned the half-empty room. Andre was in the back booth, hunched over a cold cup of coffee. He looked ravaged. His eyes were sunken, his expensive suit rumpled and stained. Seeing him like this, stripped of his usual arrogance, twisted a knife of pity in her gut. Andre? She said softly, approaching the table. He looked up, and for a split second she saw a flash of something sharp and calculating in his eyes before it was masked by tears. Joan, thank God. He reached for her hand, his grip clammy. I didn't think you'd come. I can't stay long, she said, remaining standing. Jason, he'll notice I'm gone. I just wanted to see if you were okay, to make sure you weren't dead. Andre let out a bitter laugh. I might as well be. He's erased me, Joan. Deleted me like a bad line of code. He stood up abruptly, too fast. We need to go. Go? Joan took a step back. Go where? I'm not going anywhere with you, Andre. I just came to talk. There's nothing to talk about here. His voice rose, cracking with a hysteria that made the barista look up. He's watching everything. He's probably tracking your phone right now. He grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into the fresh bruise hidden beneath her sleeve. The pain was sharp, immediate. You're hurting me, she gasped, trying to pull away. Let go. I'm saving us, Andre hissed, his face contorting into the mask of rage she knew too well. The pitiful victim was gone. The monster was back. You think he loves you? He owns you. But I'm going to take back what's mine. No, Joan shouted, panic finally piercing through the fog of her guilt. She tried to twist free, but he was stronger, fueled by desperation and adrenaline. He yanked her toward the back exit, the metal door crashing open into the dark alleyway. A nondescript sedan was idling there, its engine purring menacingly. Get in, Andre snarled, shoving her toward the open passenger door. Andre, please don't do this, she sobbed, her heels skidding on the wet pavement. It doesn't have to end like this. It ends when I say it ends, he screamed, shoving her inside with brutal force. He slammed the door and scrambled into the driver's seat, locking the doors with a terrifying click. As the cars screeched out of the alley, Joan looked back at the coffee shop, the warm light disappearing into the darkness, realizing too late that her pity had been the key to her own cage. The shattering of crystal cut through the tense silence of the estate. Jason stood in the center of the guest suite, the remnants of a water glass sparkling at his feet. The bed was empty. The closet was open. And on the nightstand, the diamond tennis bracelet he had given her for their first anniversary sat innocently in its velvet box. "Sir," the head of security stammered from the doorway, pale as a sheet. We have a breach at the service gate. The sensors were bypassed." Jason didn't scream. He didn't rage. He went terrifyingly, unnaturally still. It was the calm of a predator who has stopped hunting and started killing. "She didn't bypass them," he said, his voice void of all human emotion. "She knew the code, because I never changed it." He walked past the trembling guard, pulling his phone from his pocket. He opened a secure app, a single red dot pulsing on a map of the city. He hadn't told her about the GPS chip embedded in the platinum clasp of the necklace she was wearing, the one she had refused to take off even after the divorce. He had hoped he would never have to use it. "Ethan," he said into the phone, his stride eating up the distance to the garage. "She's moving, northbound on the I-95. Get the chopper in the air, now." "On it." Ethan's voice crackled in his ear. "I'm patching into the traffic cams. It's a gray sedan. Stolen plates. Jace, he's driving erratically." "He's terrified," Jason said coldly, entering the garage where his custom McLaren sat like a coiled beast. "He should be." He slid into the driver's seat, the engine roaring to life with a primal snarl that matched the fury in his chest. The garage door opened, and he shot out into the night, tires smoking as they fought for traction. The city blurred into streaks of neon and shadow. He wove through traffic with surgical precision, the speedometer climbing past 120, 140, 160. Every car he passed was an obstacle. Every red light a suggestion he ignored. "Target is exiting at the industrial district," Ethan updated, the sound of typing frantic in the background. "Jace, he's heading for the old shipping yards. It's a dead end." "It's his grave," Jason corrected. He drifted around a corner, the G-force slamming him against the door, his eyes locked on the horizon. He could feel her fear. It was a physical weight in his chest, a tether pulling him toward her. He had failed to protect her once. He had let her walk away because he thought it was the noble thing to do. Never again. "Hang on, Joan," he whispered to the empty car, his knuckles white on the leather steering wheel. "I'm coming." The warehouse smelled of rust and damp decay. Jason killed the headlights a block away, letting the McLaren glide into the shadows like a shark in dark water. He didn't wait for backup. He didn't wait for a plan. The red dot on his phone had stopped moving inside the rusted, corrugated steel structure ahead. He moved toward the entrance, shedding the persona of the CEO with every step. The tie was gone, the jacket discarded. He was just a man now, a man whose world was trapped inside that metal box. A scream tore through the air, Joan's scream. Something inside Jason snapped. It wasn't a conscious decision, it was a biological imperative. He hit the locked side door with his shoulder, the rusted hinges giving way with a screech of tearing metal. Inside, under the sickly yellow glow of a single work light, Andre had Joan pinned against a stack of pallets. She was fighting, scratching at his face as he slammed her against the rough brick wall, the grit slicing a jagged cut across her cheek, but he had a gun pressed to her temple. "One step and I end it," Andre shrieked, his eyes wild, sweat slicking his face. "I swear to God, McFarland, I'll do it." Jason didn't stop. He didn't even slow down. He walked forward, his hands empty, his eyes burning with a terrifying cold fire. "Pull the trigger," he said softly, "but you better make sure I'm dead first. Because if I'm breathing, I'm going to tear you apart." Andre hesitated. the sheer force of Jason's presence making him flinch. In that split second of doubt, Jason lunged. The gun went off, the shot deafening in the enclosed space, blowing a hole in the ceiling as Jason tackled Andre to the concrete floor. The weapon skittered away into the darkness. What followed wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Jason rained blows down on Andre with feral intensity, his knuckles splitting, blood spattering his pristine white shirt. He wasn't hitting a rival. He was destroying the fear, the pain, the years of lost time. He slammed Andre's head against the concrete, once, twice, a third time. Andre stopped fighting, his body going limp, but Jason didn't stop. He drew back his fist for a final, lethal blow, his vision tunneled to a single point of red rage. "Jason, stop!" The voice pierced through the roar in his ears. He froze, his fist hovering inches from Andre's ruined face. He looked up. Joan was there, trembling, tears streaming down her face. But she was alive. She was reaching for him. "Please," she sobbed, stepping over the debris. "Don't become him. Please, Jason, come back to me." The red haze receded. Jason looked down at the broken man beneath him, then at his own bloodied hands. He let out a ragged breath and rolled off, collapsing onto the cold floor. Joan fell to her knees beside him, pulling his head into her lap, her tears falling on his face like rain. He buried his face in her neck, breathing in her scent, shaking uncontrollably as the adrenaline crashed. He had almost lost himself. But he had saved her. The courtroom sketches didn't do Andre justice, or rather, they did too much. They showed a broken man in an orange jumpsuit, sentenced to 25 years without parole for kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, and attempted murder. Jason didn't watch the verdict. He was in the master bath of the estate, carefully dabbing antiseptic onto a small cut on Joan's cheek. The luxury that usually surrounded them felt different tonight. Softer. The silence wasn't heavy with unsaid words. It was peaceful. Jason's hands, usually so sure and commanding, were gentle, almost reverent as he applied the bandage. "It's going to scar," Joan whispered, looking at her reflection in the mirror. "It's just a line," Jason murmured, his thumb brushing her jawline. "It proves you survived." He set the first aid kit down and leaned against the marble counter, looking at her. The CEO mask was gone completely. He wore a simple t-shirt and sweatpants, looking younger, more open than she had seen him in a decade. "I made a mistake 5 years ago," he said, his voice rough. "I thought loving you meant fixing everything for you. I thought if I built a big enough kingdom, nothing could hurt you. I stopped listening because I was too busy protecting." Joan turned to him, taking his hand. His knuckles were still bruised from the warehouse, a stark reminder of the violence he was capable of for her. "We both made mistakes, Jason. I ran because I felt small. I didn't know how to be a partner to a king." "I don't want a subject," Jason said, intertwining their fingers. "I don't want an employee. I don't even want a wife. Not in the way we defined it before." He dropped to one knee, right there on the heated tile floor. There was no ring box this time. No paparazzi, no grand gesture. Just a man looking up at the woman who held his soul. "I want a partner," he vowed, his eyes locking with hers. "I promise to, listen, I promise to fight with you, not just for you. I promise to never let silence fill our house again. Will you try again? With me?" Joan didn't hesitate. She dropped to her knees to meet him, cupping his face. "Yes," she breathed, kissing him, a soft, lingering seal on a new contract. The next morning, the Whisper Network at McFarland Enterprises went into overdrive. But the gossip died instantly when the elevator doors opened on the executive floor. Jason McFarland stepped out, wearing his signature charcoal suit. But he wasn't barking orders into a phone. He was holding Joan's hand. She walked beside him, head high, no longer the assistant hiding in the background, but the equal she was always meant to be. They walked into his office together, and the door closed behind them, shutting out the world, leaving only the future. Family, look at what God can do. Joan went from a victim on the floor to a queen in the boardroom because she finally let love in. But here is the sad truth. There are thousands of Joans out there right now. There is a woman scrolling past this video who is terrified to go home tonight. There is a man watching this who feels like he failed to protect the one he loves. If this story touched your heart even a little bit, please do not leave without hitting the like button. It's not just a click for us. It tells YouTube to share this video with someone who desperately needs to hear that they are not alone. And if you haven't subscribed yet, ask yourself why. We are building a family of healers here. Don't let the algorithm hide this message. Be a part of the solution. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone you love. Stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next story.